What is up, my brothers and sisters, my agents of respect? It's your boy Trey Johnson back with another episode of the No Disrespect But podcast. I know it's been a long time, but you know, things happen. And I wanted this episode to be about the wedding, but we'll talk about that a little bit later at another episode because a certain photography company took all day giving me and my wife our pictures. So we couldn't have our, special moment where we kind of show some of our pictures and videos and things like that to you guys. But today, actually, there's something else that's been kind of, grinding my gears a little bit. And, honestly and truthfully, kind of pissing me off. As you all know, those of you that have been kind of following me for a while now, since we started this journey together a year and a half ago, so to speak. I'm a big time Spurs fan. I think of any sports team, those San Antonio Spurs are by far my favorite. Die hard, love them to death. Even so much that one of these days I will be the governor of the San Antonio Spurs. That's how much that franchise means to me. First basketball game I can recall seeing was let me call it the Memorial Day Miracle, where Sean Elliott kind of on his tiptoe, preventing himself from getting out of bounds and hits a turnaround three to help give the Spurs a lead and ultimately a series victory, as they would then go on to win their first of 5 NBA championships. And so I've been a fan of them for really that long. And when I say they mean a lot to me, it's for a variety of reasons. That organization, just the way they played the game of basketball, helped me fall in love with basketball. I think just watching them and what I was able to see, and then being able to emulate some of those things in my own game. You couldn't tell me, that I wasn't going to become 7 feet and be Tim Duncan, because I practiced the bank shots. I practiced the hook shots. I practiced, the turn over the right shoulder and the left shoulder, because I thought I was going to be a big man like Timmy, my favorite player ever. That wasn't genetics, wasn't on my side there, but still I was at a point where, I knew what my game could be. I knew that it could be fundamentally sound because that's the way they played. I knew being the best teammate I could be was going to be the best thing for my team. I learned that from them. You take a guy like Manu Ginobili that could have started for any of the NBA teams, including the San Antonio Spurs, but he decided to take a role on the bench because he knew that being in that role was what was best for the team and to help them win. So I grew up, emulating them in every facet of my life. I still do emulate some of those lessons that Coach Pop, Timmy, Tony, Manu, the Admiral, all those guys that have come and gone and done some great things at the Spurs organization. I personally learned a lot from them and still try to abide by some of those rules and ideologies that you learn. But to be honest with you, the one lesson that always stood out to me was accountability. The Spurs organization, from top to bottom, it was always about accountability. It didn't matter if you were the star player, franchise player, as Tim Duncan was, or if you were the last guy on the bench or somebody in the development league. You were still held to that same standard. And if you weren't playing your best, if you weren't doing what was necessary to put the best product out on the floor, you were held accountable for that. Sometimes it meant early benching. I remember times where the starting 5 came out flat. Pop would call a timeout, put all of them on the bench. There were times where we would finish fourth quarters because our starters didn't do what they needed to do, and our bench players or our role players were giving us a spark. some life, a chance to win that game. Of course, the next game you still started your same five, but it showed the fact that they were benched the game before. It showed that, hey, I have to be held to a higher standard, because there's not going to be always, not always going to be games where, yes, my teammates are talented, but for us to get where we want to be, I have to be my best. And I'm going to hold myself accountable, because my coaches and my teammates and the fan base, they're holding me accountable. And we have a duty to make sure we're putting our best out there. You know, I remember players getting chewed out for missed assignments, things of that nature, things that a young kid trying to learn, not only the game of basketball, but the game called life, that you see those things, it resonates with you, and you understand that every decision you make has a consequence, whether good or bad, it will always have a consequence. And if you aren't putting the effort in to be the best you have to be, you will get yanked. Someone else will take your spot. You will not fulfill all of the things that you need to fulfill, because you aren't doing what needs to be done to help team, the people around you, even yourself, all that makes up who you are. You aren't doing enough, and you will be held accountable. And so for, I'll say, what, 97, maybe, so about maybe the last 20, 21 years, I saw that on a consistent basis. So keep in mind, the Spurs won 5 championships. It means they didn't win all 21 of those seasons, but the standard was still there. You knew as a player and as a fan, and even as a front office executive, that you put your best foot forward. You put what was best. That was going to give you the best chance to win. You put that out on the floor. And you just, sometimes the other team was better than you. Sometimes they had better players. Sometimes they executed better. Sometimes the coach was better. That happens in sports. It happens all the time. But for the last 3 years or so, I say last 3.5 years, I've not seen that. It's been a different team. And I know one might say, well, Trey, what do you expect? You know, they don't have the big three. They don't have Timmy. They don't have Tony. They don't have Manu. They lost Kawhi. I get it. I never once said, and I think Spurs Nation would agree with me, we don't expect championship right now. We didn't expect it over. Once we traded Kawhi away, we knew that championship window wasn't there. But we still had an opportunity to compete. We had gotten an all-star in DeMar DeRozan, a young promising player in Jakob Poeltl, who's currently on the team, who I think, based on what we look like without him, he could definitely be and should definitely be a defensive player of the year candidate. We got a few picks that turned into the Keldon Johnson of the world, who's a big piece for us. But we had players where, look, you can compete. We still had LaMarcus Aldridge on the team. We still had Patty Mills, that type of thing. 2 players who both are no longer on the roster. So did we think, oh, this team is going to be go to the finals and the championship contender? No, but 4 or 5 seed in the West, we thought that was reasonable. And the first year with DeMar, we ended up with a 7 seed, but obviously, it was because we had some turnover, still trying to deal with the aftermath of Kawhi, obviously, but new player in DeMar trying to get used to us trying to get used to him. So a 7 seed, that wasn't a surprise. Took the number 2 seed, Denver Nuggets, to 7 games. With one of our young players, Derek White, looked promising because we were without DeJounte Murray, who had recently torn his ACL at the beginning of the year. So Derek White stepping up in that playoff series really gave us something to look forward to, because we knew we were getting DeJounte back, and you had promise. You thought you could elevate, go from a 7 seed to a 6 or a 5 or a 4. And maybe through the star status of DeMar, of LaMarcus, and these young guys like DeJounte and Derek, and ultimately Lonnie Walker, Lucas Samanic, and then obviously having your old reliable 6-man in Patty and even Marco at the time, you're thinking you have a legit squad. Rudy Gay, you have a legit squad to at least win a first round series, maybe a second round series, depending on who you're matching up with. And having those building blocks to where at this time, we're probably contenders. We're probably one of those teams that are getting talked about the way we used to be. But we didn't get that. And one of the main reasons we didn't get that because there was little to no accountability, not to the players, not to the coaching staff, and most certainly not to the front office. I mean, y'all know my aspirations, wanting to run a team one day. So, and being a Black man in these positions, those things don't come often. So I do my best to try to support people of color who are in those positions. But Brian Wright has been a disappointment. He has been a disappointment. Outside of drafting Keldon, what else? We drafted Lucas Samancic, 19th overall. He didn't even play for us. We put him in the G League. We put Lonnie in the G League. We drafted him 14 overall. Put him in the G League. Then we come back. Like I said, we drafted Keldon and Luka in the same draft. Then we get a guy like, Trey Jones in the second round last year, which was great. And then we get a guy, we got Devin Fazell. I think that's how I pronounce it. I'm sorry, Devin, if I pronounced it wrong, but has been a great guy. We got him acclimated, luckily, but even he was one of those guys that took a while because we were giving his minutes to veterans for whatever reason. Got to Trey Jones in the second round this year. We drafted Josh Primo and then Joe Wieskamp. So as I'm going through what the front office has done, a lot of this is either guards, which we had DeJounte, we had Derek, we had Patty, we had Bryn. I mean, we're getting guard heavy, and we're drafting guys. Oh, also not to mention, we still have DeMar DeRozan on the roster. So we're drafting these guys and we're just shipping them into the development league as if we're still the championship contenders we once were. So where's the accountability? Where's the philosophy of where we're going as a franchise? Because we missed the playoffs the last 2 years. We're on track to miss it for a third straight year. What are we doing? What is the plan? Because we clearly could have been tanking. We weren't good enough. Last year, we knew DeMar wasn't resigning. We knew we wanted to move off from the markets. We could have done that much sooner in the previous summer, got multiple draft picks, tanked, and we could have been in the sweepstakes for some of the top talent. Not to say that Josh Primo isn't a top talent, but I think we did reach for him at 14. But even then, he's shown flashes in the Summer League and in the G League and during preseason where you say to yourself, why isn't this kid on the floor? We aren't a playoff team, or we aren't a championship contending team. So why wouldn't our lottery pick be on the floor? And so this is another year of this because we drafted Lonnie Walker in the lottery and we let guys like Bryn Forbes and Marco Bellinelli that aren't a part of the long-term plan play over him to the point where when he did get in games, he would press and try not to make a mistake. But then when he made a mistake, he was yanked. But guys that should be held accountable like Bryn and Marco, who's a champion with us. Bryn, who's been in playoff runs with us, veterans that know better. They're making rookie mistakes. Bryn, currently on the roster, we're still making rookie mistakes, especially on the defensive end. But we stunted the development of a guy like Lonnie, who had already, got injured. So he missed pretty much a year with the injury. And we didn't really bring him into the fold. And so now he's still that rookie that's scared to make a mistake when he could be a third, fourth-year guy that has the confidence now that, look, I've made my mistakes. but the coach let me learn. He let me make those mistakes. What happened to the days when we would let that 19-year-old Frenchman make his mistakes? When we let the young kid from San Diego State with the cornrows make his mistakes. We let them take their lumps early. And granted, we were championship contenders then. We let them take their lumps early. And guess what? They both became superstars and finals MVPs. But somewhere along the way, we forgot the formula. Who is accountable for that? Is it General Manager Brian Wright for bringing in players and stockpiling them at a position that isn't truly a need to where it's hard to get that player on the floor? Or is it the greatest coach of all time, Coach Pop, who is in the running for getting the most wins ever by a coach? Is it him not sticking to the plan, the new plan? Because currently we are 4-10. We've blown multiple leads, multiple fourth quarter leads, multiple third quarter leads, double-digit leads. And we're currently still playing veterans that are not a part of our future. I do not want to see Josh Primo, Joe Wieskamp in Austin. They should be on the active roster playing meaningful minutes. You know who's playing meaningful minutes right now? 2 lottery picks that were drafted by the Golden State Warriors, the same Golden State Warriors that have the #1 record in the league. They are playing their rookies in meaningful situations. Why? Because you're going to need them. What good are they going to do in Santa Cruz? What is that going to do for them? They're not going to get the real grind of the NBA. They're not going to know the nuances they need to do and what they need to do to be a championship team. They're not going to learn that in Santa Cruz. I'm sorry. And Josh and Joe aren't going to learn what they need to learn in Austin. I've been watching highlights of Josh. He looks bored. He shouldn't be there. He should be taking his lumps. I mean, we're 4-10. It's not like we're top of the league. It's not like we're fighting in the middle of the pack for home court advantage, for a home court advantage in at least one series. That's not us right now. And granted, I get it. We're 14 games in. We're playing our 15th game tonight. But I assure you, I'm not overreacting because this is not just about this season. It's 4 seasons of the same shit. And quite frankly, I'm sick of it. I mean, of all of my teams, Bama, Saints, Duke, I've been the most lenient on the Spurs. I mean, granted, I take it to heart when we lose because that's my squad. But I know when my team has put forth the effort. I know when my coach is not giving up. Because look, if Pop doesn't want it anymore, because I'm done with the fucking moral victories of all the guys are playing hard. Yeah, they're playing hard. That's what you say when you have a team full of rookies. We have 3- and 4-year guys who are playing like rookies because you didn't develop them. The farmhouse, the system that birthed the Tonys, the Manus, the Corey Josephs, the DeJuan Blairs, the Kawhi Leonards, the Steven Jacksons. Where is that? Where has that passion gone? And I know Pop's been through a lot. The Kawhi saga took a lot out of him. He lost his wife. I get it. But where is the passion for winning? What is the direction we're in? Because I understand an all-time great coach doesn't want to be part of a tank job. And that's okay. Let Coach Hammond take over if that's what it is. But with Pop coming back and then us discussing that he may be here for another 2 to 3 years, clearly he's not here for a rebuild. He's not. That's not what Pop does. He doesn't rebuild. He reloads. So if he's not here for a rebuild, we have to move on to a coach that's okay with a rebuild. Let Coach Hammond run the reins. But by Coach Pop still being here, that sends the signal that we're wanting to compete, we're wanting to win, and we want to make the postseason. But we are not doing enough to make the postseason. I mean, again, we're playing guys that are not productive to us. For instance, we currently are starting a backcourt lineup of DeJounte Murray and Derek White. DeJounte averaging a little bit under 19 points a game, shooting 46% from the field, 33% from three, which is obviously better. You can see he's improving, becoming a leader. Got to get better at the free throw line. Shoot a little bit under 68%. Our point guard has to be better. We understand that. But you can clearly see improvement from him. You can clearly see that he's doing his two-way thing, trying to get better every night, battling every night. But his backcourt member, his co-star, Derek White, he's not bringing it, man. Shooting under 40%, shooting under 31% from three. I mean, come on. We can't continue to play those two together if we want to win games. I got an idea. How about inserting Devin Vassell in the lineup? You know, the guy shooting 46% from the field, shooting 40% from three, can also play consistent defense, so we're not losing anything on that end if we put Devin in over Derek. We're getting a better three-point shooter in, which helps DeJounte work better, which helps Doug McDermott get easier three-point looks, which gives Keldon a little bit more room, which gives Jakob a little bit more room in our starting lineup. And not to knock on Derek. Look, I love him. I think as far as talent is concerned, he is our most talented player. He has the everything. He should be able to shoot the ball better. He can make his own plays for him and others. Hell of a defender. He's tops in the league now as far as blocks and charges taken by guards. So we know what he can bring to the table, but he's just not bringing that dimension that we need in the starting lineup. And maybe let's do with Derek what we did with Manu years ago. Let him work with the second unit. Let him be that guy, that scorer, that playmaker. I can almost guarantee that you will see a change in him. And then we can have him close the same way we had Manu close. But right now, we're not getting him in a rhythm in the starting lineup. Devin is one of those guys that he doesn't need to score to get in the rhythm, but he can. He'll help space the floor. If we kick it out to him, he can go make a play for himself. He can go make a play for his teammates. Give the young guys a chance. Remember what I said about accountability. And it also means to be accountable, that means to be competitive and reward competitiveness. Clearly, Devin Vassell is outperforming Derek White. There's nothing against Derek. But if a player is busting his behind every single night for you and showing that he should get the nod to start him. Let's see if we can rejuvenate our starting lineup, because right now it's not providing the juice. It's not. If DeJounte is not Superman, it seems as if we can't win. So again, I know I've been leading for a long time. This has been my team since I was damn near a baby. Let's be honest with it. I was damn near a baby watching this culture and growing up. So I know what I'm talking about when I see that it's different. You recognize when you've been used to something for so long and then it's different. And it's not due to a lack of talent. Players are clearly talented, but I think there's a discord between the two entities that were always consistent, being our front office and our coaching. And right now, those two are not on one accord, because the drafting has been very suspect. I'm sorry. Like I said, People of color don't get too many opportunities. So I try to be a little even keel when critiquing, but no, it's been nothing short of a disaster. Failed drafts. We knew, look, when we knew we weren't winning, it was time to trade DeMar. We should have traded LaMarcus before the season started because we ended up having to cut him. We got 0 for LaMarcus Aldridge. We should have traded him when his stock was high. And when we knew that we weren't making the playoffs, granted, we got into a play-in game, but come on. Is that what we're playing for? I know that's not what DeMar DeRozan was playing for, so we should have cut bait. There were a lot of teams that would have given up good pieces for DeMar. And I can admit, I was in denial. I thought we could make a final push, given everything we have been through. COVID, injuries. But sometimes you just have to face the facts that you are what you are, and you aren't what you aren't. We aren't 97 to 2017. That's not us. It's not us anymore. Coach is still there, yeah, but is he still even really there? And I'm speaking of Spurs Nation here. You can't tell me that you haven't watched the games and the rotations and the passion and think that that's Goat Popovich you're looking at. It's not. It's Greg. It's not Goat. It's Greg. The passion is not there. And like I said, I've heard murmurs that Pop might be coming back. I hope he does break his record. I hope we still make the playoffs, but we won't make it with the rotations he's been putting out there. We won't. You got guys like Drew Eubanks stinking up the joint, can't cover anybody. So freaking happy that Jakob's coming back. But guess what? Jakob can't be our savior. So who's the backup big? I would love to see Jock Landale from Australia get some minutes. Can't hurt. Can't hurt. I think he'll give you something. He'll give you some energy at the very least. So where do we go from here? I mean, I just want to know, what are we as a team? Are we rebuilding? Because if we're rebuilding, then I want Josh Primo and Joe Wieskamp on the active roster. We're rebuilding. They should be playing. They should be playing and playing often. What the hell are they in Austin for? To do what? To get better for what? A rebuilding team? Put them in the line of fire. The issue is we haven't been putting our draft picks in the line of fire. We didn't put Lonnie in the line of fire. And see, we're not even extending them. We might have him walk in free agency. We didn't put Luka Samacic in the line of fire. We ended up having to release him. We're not even really putting Trey Jones in the line of fire. Well, he's averaging, what, seven minutes a game? Come on, man. What the fuck is that? It's a draft pick. He's a draft pick. He should be getting more minutes over Bryn Forbes, more minutes over Thad Young. It's not rocket science. He's a draft pick. Let's see. You develop players by having them play, especially when you are a rebuilding team. Now, are we not a rebuilding team? Are we a team that's wanting to contend for the playoffs? Are we? Talent-wise, I don't think so. Not with the rotations you're putting out. I would still argue that Josh Primo gives us a better chance to win than Bryn Forbes does. I do. As much as I love what that has been doing for us, averaging about 20 minutes a game, got more minutes with Jakob being out, averaging 8 points, making some really clutch plays for us down the stretch. But come on, Thad's in the same position that DeMar was in last year. You know that Thad's not going to re-sign with us. Nor should we have him re-sign with us. See, I'm not a fan of tanking. I'm not going to argue that we should just lose games. I know most or some in the fan base would say, hey, just tank. That's not me. And maybe it's my expectations of the franchise I grew up watching that tanking was something we just didn't do. Granted, we did it when the Admiral was hurt and you knew you weren't making the playoffs and Tim Duncan, the best player in college basketball, was coming out. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, who's the best player coming out now? Are we sure who that is? Chet, Imani, I think it's Juan Wanchero or something like that from Duke right now. Those might be some of the top players in the draft. But then when we think about that, are we as an organization even worthy of a top 3 pick? Based on what we've done with the other picks and stunted their growth and their development? If I'm an agent, if my client gets drafted by San Antonio Spurs, I'm not happy. I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not happy. What draft picks have we developed in the last few years? DeJounte's the only one, and I will argue that that has little to do with what we do and more so because he's a dog. Derek shows flashes, but then he gets hurt. Then it's all over again. Devin, another person, I would just say he came in as a dog. He earned his minutes. When he was getting 5 minutes a game, those are some of the best 5 minutes of basketball I've ever seen in my life. Yaka, we didn't even draft him. So does he even count? Did you really develop him? I mean, I saw him at Utah. Always was a good defender, was even a better offensive player, but looks like he's allergic to scoring. I mean, yeah, he's averaging 14 for us now, but he scored 30 this year. He's had like 30, 33, something like that, but I want to see more of that. I want to see him be a little bit more dominant. Did we develop Drew? What about Lonnie? 38% from the field, 31% from 3. Is that development to you? We're not playing Trey. We let Luka go, big Luka. But then we have to watch all these other picks. Like Clark coming out of Gonzaga, got drafted by Memphis. They didn't waste time. They played him. Michael Porter Jr. Denver let him heal. But once he was healed, they let the horses sing. They let him loose. When are we going to let our guys loose? Win or lose? When are we going to let them loose? Not having veterans take up valuable minutes. The only veteran on this roster that should be taking up minutes is Doug McDermott because that was our prize free agent signing. We're paying him $15 million a freaking season. He's the only one that should be taking someone's minutes. I love that and what he's doing with us, but he's not a part of the long-term plan. He shouldn't be taking anybody's minutes. Drew shouldn't be taking anybody's minutes. Brent Forbes definitely should not be taking anybody's minutes. He is on an as-needed basis. If a guard gets hurt or we're trying to rest players, that's when Brent Forbes gets in the lineup. But like I said, what are we? We don't have an identity. And for anyone, whether you're a part of Spurs Nation or you're just a fan of basketball, when have the San Antonio Spurs not have an identity? At the very least, we've had that. We don't know if we're tanking, if we're rebuilding slightly, if we're playoff contenders, if we're delusional into thinking we're championship contenders. I have no idea, which is fine for, in a way, a fan not to have an idea. But what's worse is that I don't think the organization has an idea. And that was the one thing as a fan I thought I could count on, that they would know. This isn't a new coach. I mean, RC, he isn't, our GM anymore, but he's still over basketball ops. He's there. Brian Wright's new to a degree, but he's been around. So it's not as if we just have this whole new regime and we're trying to figure ourselves out. It's still pretty much the same core. So, and same ownership group too. I know the family's going through, some things as far as the husband and wife getting divorced and things of that nature, but they still run the family business well. So what are we? What is the Spurs identity? What I can tell you is, if they don't find out fast what they want to do, there's going to be a lot of years where our players are going to be spending their summers in beaches just like this, watching other teams, other players hoist the Larry O'Brien trophy. And all that will be discussed about the Spurs is what they once were. DeJounte, is that what you want? Keldon, Jakob, Devin, Derek, Lonnie, Dub, the Buckets, Thad, while you're here, Drew, Bren, even you, Keita, Joe, Trey, Jock, Pop, Becky, RC, Brian, is that what you want? For us to be a memory, a distant memory, because it's been a long time since we've been those folks, a distant memory in the minds of those that love sports and the game of basketball. And most importantly, those that love Spurs basketball. Do better. Be better. Demand better. Because we sure as hell demand better. And that's because it's the standard that you set. Don't run from it. Don't lose sight of it. Keep the standard. As long as the standard's there, the success of division titles, playoff series, conference titles, and ultimately NBA titles, that will come. But remember the standard. Because I sit here today, a fan who grew up on that standard, realizing that his heroes, his role models, they've lost sight of it. Do better. Be better. Demand better. Appreciate you, Agents of Respect. Let me just kind of be on my soapbox for a little bit. And I'm just kind of in that there. As I usually say, if I offended anybody, that's a good thing. It's an opportunity for me to learn and an opportunity for you to teach me. All I ask is that you keep it respectful. Peace, and go Spurs, go.